Welcome to lesson 13.5. So solving by factoring. So we know how to factor, right? Use our X factor, AC on the top, air conditioning, B on the bottom, right? And we put A times C, 1 times negative 15, negative 15, negative 2 on the bottom, two numbers, then multiply negative 15, 3 and negative 5, and they add to negative 2, right? So the 3 and negative 5 will give us our factor form, X plus 3, X minus 5. And now it's equal to 0. So since it's equal to 0, we can actually solve it just like we found x-intercepts. If it's found equal to 0, that means the height of that point is 0. And the height at that point is an x-intercept, right? 0. Ground level, water level is at 0. So we're basically just doing the same thing we did. Zero product property. Solve each one. We got negative 3 and 5. And those would be, if you're graphing it, it'll be a x-intercepts. So just like that, negative 3, 5, you could check by substituting negative 3 and 5 into your solution, as usual, like we did before. All right, so all we're doing is just factoring first, and then we just do the zero product property to solve. So if an equation like this is equal to 0, and we want to find out what are the values of x when it's equal to 0, we can solve by factoring, right? So factor it. 4 times 5, 20. 4 plus 5, 9. So we have x plus 4, x plus 5 equals 0. Use our zero product property. Solve each one separately. We get x equals negative 4, x equals negative 5. So we're just adding that one step. Factoring first as a method to get it to factored form. And then once it's in factored form, we can always use the zero product property. Right? Just like if we're finding the x-intercepts of a graph. It's the same idea. This is just solving when it's equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to solve by factoring. So we have our A, B, C, right? So A, B, C. We can use our X factor, right? AC on top, B on the bottom. A times C is 1 times 6. 6, B on the bottom is 5. So we want to find two factors or two numbers that multiply 6, add to 5. And that would be positive 2, positive 3. Right, so they multiply to 6, add to 5. So our factored form, we can just use that to get our factor form. Right, so xx, and our two numbers was positive 2 and positive 3. So our two factors, x plus 2 times x plus 3. And again, this one is just equal to 0. So we write equal to 0. So now it's a factored form that's equal to 0. And when it's equal to 0, we can always use the zero product property. Okay, so we set each of our factors equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. And that's using the zero product property. You hear this a lot in algebra too, zero product property. Right, so factoring, solving by factoring. Then we can solve each one. So minus 2, both sides, minus 3, both sides. So we have x is equal to negative 2, and x is equal to negative 3. So those are the two zeros, they call it. So these are called zeros because they are the solution when your equation is equal to 0. When you think about it as a graph, is when the height is 0, it's at these 2 points, negative 2 and negative 3. Those would be your x-intercepts, basically. So the zeros, they call it, and we can put it in order, least to greatest, so negative 3, comma, negative 2, right, least to greatest, in our set notation. So that's solving by factoring, right? Just factor first. So two things that we know how to do. We're just doing one first, factoring first, and then a zero product property after that. Okay, number 2, same idea, right? We have our A, B, C. We're going to apply our X factor. A times C on the top, B on the bottom. A times C, 1 times negative 16. It's negative 16. B on the bottom, negative 6. So two numbers that's going to multiply to negative 16, add to negative 6, negative 8, positive 2. There. So they multiply to negative 16, add to negative 6. So our factored form, xx, so x minus 8, x plus 2. And remember, since we started with equals 0, this whole equation is still equal to 0. So we just factored using the x factor, and then we want to actually solve it. We have to use the zero product property. Just like we find in the x-intercepts again. All right, set each to 0. Solve it. So add 8 both sides, subtract 2 both sides. So we have x is equal to 8. X is equal to negative 2. And again, those are called the zeros. So zeros. There, that's a 0. 8 is a 0. Right? Because those are the solutions when your equation is equal to 0. So we call it zeros. So our two zeros are negative 2, comma 8. Right? So our two solutions, two x-intercepts if we're graphing it, two zeros is negative 2 and 8. Okay, can do. Okay, let's do a couple more. Okay, 3. Again, A, B, C. Your x factor, AC on top, B on the bottom. All right, so our A is 1 times our C is 80. So that's 80. B on the bottom, negative 18. So two numbers multiply to 80, add to negative 18, and they're going to be negative 8, negative 10. So they multiply to a positive 80, add to a negative 18. So our two factors, and xx, is going to be x minus 8, x minus 10, and our equation is still equal to 0 again, right? Because that's what we started with. So we just factor first, do our zero product property, like we do. So x minus 8 equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0. And then we solve each one separately. So add 8, add 8, add 10, add 10. So we get x is equal to 8, x is equal to 10. So our two solutions in order least to greatest is 8 and 10. There, right? So factor first, and then use the zero product property to solve. Okay, one more, and you guys can try. So first one, oh, it's a little bit different. Where's all the numbers, right? So we have, usually x squared is a, with the x is b, no x's, a number by itself is your c, right? So this one, it has the a, right, 1. The x here tells you this is b, but we don't have a c, right? So we don't have a c, what number is that, right? 0. So it should be a 0 out there, but you don't have to write out the 0 because 0 is nothing, right? So your c is 0. So we just still can do the ABC factor. A times C. So 1 times 0 is a 0. B on the bottom is 4. So we still can do the ABC factor. Multiply to 0, add to 4. One of them has to be 0. So positive 4 times 0. And that's our factors. Let's put the 0 first. So we got x plus 0, x plus 4 equals 0, like that. Right? So 0, you don't really need to write 0. So you could actually just write it x parentheses x plus 4. Like that. Because you don't need the plus 0. Right? So you can leave it separate. Like this. And you notice there's another way to do it, is that you could just divide by the greatest common factor. This one has a common factor of x. So if you just want to, in the beginning, divide by x, it would take out the x. So over here, x will be left with x plus 4. And we still get x times x plus 4. Either way, take out the GCF, or you could still do the x factor and get this. Now you're still going to set the zero product property. So x, we use it because it has an x. So x equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0. The x equals 0 is already solved, right? X by itself. So you don't have to add or subtract anything. And then the plus 4, we just do the opposite, subtract 4. So x is equal to negative 4. So we have two solutions. Negative 4 is the smallest, and then 0 is the larger one. So negative 4, comma 0. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So we're just doing factor form, ABC factor. Once we have it in factored form, we always can do the zero product property and solve for each 0, yeah, or each solution. Negative 4 and 0 in this case. All right, good luck with the homework.